take your things and leave my house. I have divorced you.
It was Christmas Day. I thought it would be a day filled with laughter, warmth, and hope. But instead, she threw all my things out the door. My clothes, my little notebook, everything I had worked so hard for into 2 tiny bags. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You can't do anything, David. This property is in my name. You're useless." I walked out that day, my hands empty, my heart heavier than ever, wondering if love had ever been real. I had no idea that the very deal I had been pouring my life into for years, the one that could change everything, had just been approved. She didn't know, she couldn't know, that I was about to become unstoppable. If you want to see how I went from being kicked out on Christmas to signing $1 billion deal, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment below. This story will change the way you see patience, love, and regret. I've always been quiet. People often mistake quiet for weakness, for laziness, or for not caring, but that's never been me. I work, I grind. I stay awake when the world sleeps, thinking, planning, hoping. I am the kind of man who believes that patience isn't just a virtue. It is the only path to building something real. But patience doesn't always look impressive, especially when the people around you can't see what you're building. I married Clara 5 years ago. We met young, full of hope, full of promises we barely understood. Back then, she told me with a smile, "I like that you're different, that you think before you speak, that you don't need the world to notice you to know your worth." I believed her. I still do. But marriage isn't just about love. It's about surviving life together. And life has a way of testing the quiet ones. Our first few years were beautiful in their own way, if you ignore the endless bills, the rent that seemed to climb every month, the dinners we skipped because we couldn't afford them. I remember sitting across from her one night, counting the last few dollars in my wallet, my stomach nodding. "I'll figure it out," I said softly. "Figure it out? We're running out of time, David. Time doesn't wait for you to build your dreams." She snapped. Her words hurt, not just because of what she said, but because she didn't understand that I wasn't idle. I was building, quietly, patiently. I was planting seeds no one could see. And that's when I started working on Project Atlas. My idea, my secret. I didn't tell anyone, not Clara. Not my friends, not my family. I stayed late at night, scribbling in my little notebook, sketching ideas on napkins, writing emails to potential investors I knew probably wouldn't reply. I gave up sleep, social life, weekends, because I believed in the future I was trying to create. Clara sometimes caught me working late, and I could see the disbelief in her eyes. "David, why are you still at that desk? Nothing's happening. We need money now, not your little dream." I would just smile softly, exhaustion in my voice. "Trust me, it's coming. I just need a little more time." She would roll her eyes and leave, thinking I was wasting our life away. I remember the nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining the world, seeing Project Atlas for the first time, imagining success, imagining a life where she might finally understand, but knowing that maybe she never would. And even in those nights of doubt, I clung to patience, because I had learned something early. Real growth is invisible at first. It's quiet. It's slow. But it is unstoppable if you don't give up. And so I worked. Every hour, every day, every sacrifice quietly, patiently, misunderstood. I used to think family gatherings were supposed to be warm, filled with laughter and stories. But with Clara, even the simplest event felt like a battlefield. I can still feel the way my chest tightened every time we walked into her parents' house, the way her eyes would flick to me with that impatient glare, like I didn't belong. The first time it really cut me, she didn't even whisper. She said it loud enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, this is my husband, everyone. David, he's still figuring things out. Unlike Mark over there, he's already a millionaire." I froze. My mouth wanted to form words, wanted to defend myself, but something in me knew it wouldn't matter. Clara smiled at her family like she had just delivered the funniest joke in the world, but the laughter that followed felt like knives. Her mother leaned in, not missing a beat. "Well, dear, maybe he'll get there someday. If he ever stops daydreaming." I looked down at my hands. I could feel my fingers trembling. I wanted to say I'm working on something that will change everything, but I didn't. I couldn't. How could I explain years of secret work in a single conversation? And how could I let her see the fire in me that no one else seemed to notice? Clara tilted her head, her voice dripping with condescension. "David, remember when you said you'd make enough for us to travel by next summer? That was cute." Everyone laughed again. I felt my stomach knot. I thought about the men she compared me to, the cousins, her friends' husbands. They were loud, boastful, successful. They wore their accomplishments on their sleeves, flashing wealth like armor. And there I was, quiet, patient, invisible in the spotlight, holding dreams she couldn't see. During another gathering, she leaned over my shoulder while I was trying to sip my drink. "You know, I don't know why I married you. I really don't. Look at everyone else, your friends, my cousins. They're doing so much more than you ever have." I wanted to shout. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run away and never hear another word from her. But instead, I stayed silent. I smiled faintly, nodded, and said nothing. Inside, my heart was breaking piece by piece. I would whisper to myself later at night, "One day they'll see. One day she'll see." But the silence was heavy. Every insult, every mockery, every comparison felt like a stone in my chest. And the worst part, Clara didn't even realize what she was doing. She thought she was being funny or realistic or honest. She didn't see that she was slowly crushing the man who loved her more than anything. Even though I smiled on the outside, inside I was screaming. I wanted to tell her, "I'm not nothing. I'm building something that will change everything. Just wait." But words wouldn't have mattered. She didn't want to wait. She wanted proof. Proof I couldn't give. Not yet, so I endured. I stayed quiet. I let her mock me, let the family laugh, let the comparison sting. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I just held on to my secret, my dream, my Project Atlas, the one thing she would never understand until it was too late. And every time she spoke, I learned something. Patience isn't just about waiting. It's about surviving the storms others throw at you, quietly, while building a life they'll regret ignoring. The nights were the hardest. The world would go quiet, the streets dark and empty, and I would sit alone at my desk, the soft hum of my laptop filling the silence. Clara would be asleep somewhere in the house, probably dreaming of a life she thought she deserved without realizing that I was working every night to give it to her. I remember one night clearly. My hands were cramped from typing, my eyes burning, my back aching. I rubbed my temples and whispered to myself, just one more email, one more pitch. Maybe tonight will be the night. I had sent proposal after proposal to investors, countless messages that went unanswered. Some had replied politely, only to reject me politely as well. Others didn't reply at all. Each rejection felt like a punch. Each silence a reminder that no one believed in me. I kept thinking, am I really doing the right thing? Maybe she's right. Maybe I am wasting my life. But then I'd glance at my notebook, my little secret, where every page was filled with sketches, numbers, plans, ideas I had been nurturing for years. I'd whisper to it, you and I will prove them wrong. We just have to keep going. The hardest part was the NDA. The investors had insisted I couldn't share anything about the project, not even with Clara. I wanted to tell her so badly. I wanted to shout, I'm doing this for us. I'm building something that will change everything. But I couldn't. If I broke the NDA, the deal would be over before it even started. And Clara? She didn't understand patience. She didn't understand that some victories are invisible until they arrive. One night, exhausted, she came into my office, leaning against the doorframe. Her voice was sharp, tired, frustrated. David, you're here again? At this hour? What are you even doing? You're not earning money. You're just typing and dreaming. How long are you going to waste your life like this? I looked up at her, voice quiet but steady. I'm not wasting my life. I'm building something important. I just need a little more time. She shook her head and walked away, muttering, time is all you ever ask for. But it doesn't pay the bills, David. It never will. That night, after she left, I sat back down, tears burning in my eyes. Not because I doubted myself, but because no one could see the work, the sacrifice, the countless nights spent dreaming of a future that felt impossibly far away. I whispered to myself, just a little longer, just a little more. Then came the final proposal submission. I had checked and double-checked every line, every detail, every figure. I pressed send and felt a mix of fear and hope wash over me. The waiting period began, the longest, quietest, most torturous stretch of my life. Days turned into nights, nights into mornings. Every vibration of my phone made my heart leap. Every email notification, a possible miracle or another rejection. I couldn't tell Clara. I couldn't tell anyone. I had to wait. And in that waiting, every insult, every mockery, every comparison she ever made to other men burned inside me. But now they fueled me. They reminded me why I couldn't give up. One day, Clara, one day they'll all see. And I hope you remember every word you ever said, I whispered to the empty room, my voice barely audible over the hum of my laptop. And so I waited, quietly, patiently, holding on to a dream no one could see. But one day, it would scream loud enough for the world to hear. The arguments started small, almost unnoticed at first. But over time they became constant, like a storm that never sleeps. Every word I said seemed to spark tension. Every silence became a weapon. Clara's voice, once soft and loving, had grown sharp and cold. One evening, after another long day at my desk, I came home exhausted. I had barely eaten, barely slept, but I still hoped for a quiet night. Clara was in the kitchen, arms crossed, tapping her foot impatiently. You're late again, she snapped. Did you even try to find a real job today, or were you just wasting time like always? I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm working on something, Clara. I promise. Just a little more time. She laughed bitterly, a sound that cut deeper than any knife. Time? You've been asking for time for years. Do you know what time has done for us? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I can't live like this anymore. I felt my chest tighten, the familiar ache returning. I wanted to shout, to explain, to tell her about every night I spent working, every rejection I endured, every sleepless hour I gave to the future we could have. But the words caught in my throat. David, you promised me a life. You promised me stability. And all I see is failure. You're failing me, failing us. Failing yourself. Her accusations hit me like repeated blows. It wasn't just about money or success. It was about every tiny thing she thought I wasn't doing right. Every mistake, every delay, every quiet moment of mine became evidence of my inadequacy in her eyes. I'm trying, Clara, I whispered, voice breaking. Please, just give me a little more time. You'll see. I'm building something important for us, for our future. She shook her head, frustration twisting her features. Time? You've wasted too much of it already. I can't keep living like this, hoping for a miracle that never comes. I don't respect you anymore, David. I can't. Her words cut deeper than I could bear. Respect, something I had once felt, was the foundation of love, was gone. And with it, the warmth and hope I had held on to for so long. I tried to reach out, to bridge the growing distance. Clara, I know it's hard to see now, but I'm doing this for us. For the life we dreamed about when we married. Please, don't give up on me yet. She turned away, her voice cold and final. I gave up on you a long time ago. Maybe you don't see it yet, but I can't keep waiting for something that might never happen. And with that, she walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, exhausted, broken, and completely alone. I remember sinking into a chair, feeling the weight of every word she had ever said, every insult, every accusation. But beneath the pain, beneath the heartbreak, a small voice inside me whispered, "One day, one day you'll be more than she ever imagined." And I clung to that whisper like a lifeline, knowing that respect lost today could not take away the work I had done, the nights I had sacrificed, or the future I was quietly building. The day Clara decided to end our marriage, I knew, in a cold, sinking way, that nothing would ever be the same. I had hoped against hope that patience, love, and my quiet determination would be enough to keep her by my side. But that day the truth hit me like a hammer. Some people give up before the miracle arrives. It started with her voice, sharp and deliberate, slicing through the morning air. I've had enough, David. I can't keep living like this. I want a divorce. I froze, the words hitting harder than any argument before. Clara, please, we can work this out. I just need a little more time. You'll see. I'm building something for us. She laughed, not kindly, not bitterly, just laughter that held finality. Time, you've had time, patience, dreams. And all I have is disappointment. I'm done waiting for you to become the man I married. You failed me, David. You failed yourself. And I refuse to drag my life through this any longer. I wanted to argue, to beg, to pour my heart out, but the words choked me. She wasn't listening. She had already made up her mind. I'm taking everything that's mine. This house, this life, and you'll have nothing but the scraps you brought with you. I watched, powerless, as she gathered my few possessions, my shirts, my notebooks, the few personal items I had managed to keep. Each item tossed into 2 small, cheap bags, like they were worthless. Careful with that notebook, David, she said mockingly as she shoved it in. Not that anything you write in there will ever matter. I swallowed hard, feeling the sting of tears I refused to shed. I wanted to shout, "You don't see what I'm building. You don't understand what I'm trying to do." But I didn't. She would never understand. And saying it now would have been like throwing a match into a hurricane, useless. Her parents watched silently, her friends smirking, as if this was entertainment. My life, my dignity, my love for her, all on display, as if it were a joke. "Get out," she said finally, pointing toward the door. "Take your 2 bags and leave. You're done here. You've done nothing for me, nothing for us. Just go." I stood there, stunned, feeling the weight of every accusation, every insult, every word she had thrown at me over the years. And then I did the only thing I could do. I picked up my 2 bags, held my chin high, and walked out of the house I had once called home. As I closed the door behind me, I whispered to myself, not out of pride but as a lifeline, "One day she'll see. One day everything will change, and I'll be more than she ever imagined." Outside, the winter air bit at my cheeks. The lights of the house glowed warmly behind me, mocking me. I had nothing. No home, no respect, no belief from the person I loved most. But I still had my dream. And that, I realized, was the only thing no one could take from me, not even her. I walked down the street with my 2 bags, my shoulders aching, my heart heavy, but my mind strangely focused. The world might have seen a failure that day, but I knew the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. After Clara threw me out, I ended up on my friend's couch, not just for one night, but for many nights. The cushions were worn, the sheets thin, and the apartment smelled faintly of old coffee and loneliness. I would lie there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the life I had lost and the woman I still loved, wondering if all those years of sacrifice meant anything at all. One night I barely slept. My mind kept replaying everything she had said, every insult, every accusation, every bitter laugh she directed at me. I whispered into the dark, almost to myself, "Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm nothing. Maybe this dream is a joke." I rolled over and checked my laptop out of habit, more than hope. And then it appeared an email that made my heart stop. The subject line read, "Congratulations, Project Atlas approved." I stared at it again. My hands shook so violently that I could barely open the message. I whispered to no one, my voice cracking, No, this can't be real." I clicked. Read the lines. Read them again. The numbers, the confirmation, the global partnership. $1 billion deal. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a dream. It was real. I fell back onto the couch, clutching the letter to my chest like a lifeline. Tears streamed down my face. Not tears of celebration, not tears of grief, but a chaotic mix of both. "I did it," I whispered. "I actually did it. But she's not here to see it." I laughed quietly, though it sounded more like a sob. I worked through nights she mocked me for. I survived arguments, insults, disrespect. And now it's real, but the joy was tangled with grief. Grief for the life I had lost. Grief for the love that had walked out the door too early. Grief for all the times I had been humiliated in front of her family, the friends, the world. I wanted to run to her, to tell her everything, but a voice in my head stopped me. "No, David, this is your moment. She had her chance. You survived. Now you thrive." I looked around the tiny apartment, the couch that had been my bed for weeks, the empty walls, the loneliness, and for the first time I felt a strange calm. I whispered again, almost to myself, "I'm free, but I'm also everything I've ever dreamed of. I can't believe this is real." I sat there for hours, letting the emotions wash over me. Joy, grief, relief, anger, hope, they all collided inside me. A storm of feelings I couldn't separate. I whispered into the night, my voice low and steady, almost a prayer. "Clara, I hope one day you understand what you walked away from. I hope you see that I never gave up, and that I'm finally everything I was meant to be." The couch beneath me felt softer now, not because it had changed, but because I had. Everything I had endured, every sleepless night, every insult, every rejection, it had led me here. And as dawn crept through the blinds, painting the room in pale gold, I finally allowed myself to hope again. Not for her, not for anyone, but for me, for the man I had fought to become. After the email, after the confirmation, after the initial shock, I realized something important. Signing a billion-dollar deal didn't mean life suddenly became easy. If anything, it became heavier. Suddenly, I had responsibilities I had never imagined, legal paperwork thicker than my old notebooks, contracts I had to understand line by line, meetings with lawyers who spoke in languages that felt like riddles, and investors who expected instant results. I remember sitting across from one lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman with no patience for mistakes. She looked at me and said, "Mr. David, this isn't a game. One wrong move and the deal collapses. Are you prepared for that?" I swallowed, my throat dry. I've prepared my whole life for this moment. I won't let it fail." And she looked at me skeptically, her pen tapping against the table. "I hope so, because this is bigger than you, bigger than any dream you've ever had." The weight of her words didn't scare me. It grounded me. I realized that all the sleepless nights, the insults, the rejections, they had trained me for this exact moment. The quiet patience, the focus, the refusal to give up, they were my armor. But even with success, I made a conscious choice. I would maintain humility. I could have flaunted my wealth, shown the world how far I had come, responded to every person who ever mocked me. But I didn't. I didn't want to be that man. I wanted to be better than the version of myself that had been mocked, insulted, and dismissed. My phone rang one night. Clara's name flashed on the screen. I didn't answer. Instead, I whispered to myself, "Not yet. Not now. I have work to do. My past is not welcome in my future." I focused on the business, on the people depending on me, on the company I was building. Every day brought new responsibilities. I had teams to lead, strategies to plan, deals to negotiate. The pressure was immense, but it was the kind of pressure I had been ready for all along. A colleague leaned over during a meeting one afternoon, whispering, "David, you're handling this incredibly well. Most people would crack under this kind of pressure." I smiled faintly, keeping my voice soft. I learned patience the hard way. I learned to endure without anyone noticing. That makes all the difference. Every evening, when the office emptied and the lights dimmed, I would sit at my desk, thinking about the past, thinking about Clara, thinking about the insults, the nights on the couch, the 2 bags I had left with, and I made a choice. I would cut contact with the past completely. Not out of hatred, not out of revenge, but out of necessity. I can't carry the weight of someone else's mistakes. I can't let yesterday dictate who I am today. I whispered into the empty office, my voice steady, almost comforting. And in that silence I felt it, the freedom I had been fighting for all my life. Freedom not from work, not from responsibilities, not from failure, but freedom from the shadows that had haunted me. Every insult, every mockery, every heartbreak became fuel for what I was building. I had finally stepped into a life where my past could no longer touch me, where my success wasn't for anyone's approval, and where my dreams, quiet, unseen, patient dreams, were finally becoming real. The first time I saw her face, when the world finally saw me, I didn't even have to be in the same room. I was sitting in my new office, glass walls letting in the morning sun, when my assistant nudged me and said, "David, you might want to see this." I looked up at the TV screen across the room. There I was in a feature article on a major network, smiling faintly, standing in front of the newly signed global contract. My voice was calm, my posture steady. They'd called it a historic billion-dollar deal, a visionary startup achievement. And for the first time, every silent night, every insult, every mockery, it all made sense. I remember her, Clara, sitting somewhere, scrolling through her phone. She froze when she saw the headline. Her fingers shook. Her lips parted like she couldn't find words. I imagined her whispering, "No, it can't be him. It's not possible." But it was me. It had always been me. Social media exploded. Colleagues, strangers, former investors, all of them praising the deal, sharing screenshots, commenting on the genius of the man they once thought invisible. Suddenly, I wasn't just David, the quiet, struggling husband. I was David, the man who had endured, who had waited, who had quietly built an empire, while everyone doubted him. I sat back in my chair, letting the moment sink in. Joy, yes, but tempered with a strange sorrow. Part of me wanted to call her to say, see, this is what I was capable of. But I didn't. Part of me knew that some people never truly see. They only feel the sting of their own mistakes. And I imagined her reaction in more detail because I knew her so well. The disbelief, the shock, the slowly rising regret. Perhaps she muttered to herself, I didn't believe him. I didn't give him a chance. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Friends and family who had laughed at her side, the same ones who had mocked me relentlessly, they started whispering. Comparisons reversed. Social media posts subtly hinted at recognition of my work. People who once ignored me now wanted my attention. Invitations arrived. Interviews were requested. Opportunities once denied now chased me. The world had flipped, an entire social reversal that I had never wished for, but that came naturally from persistence and patience. And I let it happen quietly. I didn't gloat. I didn't flaunt. I simply allowed the truth to speak for itself. My life had transformed in a way that was undeniable. And though the world applauded, the person whose doubt had hurt the most, Clara, was confronted not by my words, but by reality. I whispered to myself almost softly, "This is what happens when you endure, when you work, when you refuse to give up. They'll see it, even if it's too late for them." And somewhere I knew she saw it. I could almost feel the weight of her regret through the headlines, the news clips, the buzzing of notifications. Social reversal. Humiliation not mine but hers. And for the first time in years I felt a strange peace. The boy who had been mocked, dismissed, and misunderstood was gone. In his place stood a man who had quietly conquered every storm thrown his way. I leaned back in my chair and allowed a small smile to form. I didn't need her to say a word. The world had already set it for me. I never expected to see her again. Not like this, not after everything. And yet, there she was, standing at the entrance of my new office building, the very place that had once been a dream scribbled in my little notebook, now a reality. My heart skipped, though I tried to hide it. She looked older, quieter, smaller somehow, and yet her eyes carried the same fire, but now mixed with fear and regret. I didn't move at first. I just watched her, letting her presence sink in. She finally spoke, her voice trembling. "David, I didn't know. I didn't realize. I'm so sorry." I closed my eyes briefly, trying to steady the storm inside me. "Sorry for what, Clara?" I asked, my voice calm but heavy with everything I had endured. "For leaving you, for mocking you, for doubting you every single day," she said, tears streaming down her face. I was wrong. I see it now. I see everything. You became everything I didn't believe you could be, and I lost you." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Part of me wanted to throw my arms around her, to hear the warmth of her voice mean something again. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not after the years of pain, the nights on the couch, the insults, the humiliation. She took a tentative step closer. "David, please. I still love you. I never stopped loving you. I thought I could wait. I thought I could... I don't know. I thought you'd fail. And maybe then I'd come back. But I see now. I was a fool." I felt a strange mixture of emotions swirling inside me. Anger, sorrow, relief, and a quiet satisfaction. I let her words hang in the air for a moment. Then I spoke, my voice steady, measured. "Clara, do you know what it feels like to be ignored, laughed at, dismissed, and still love the person who hurt you the most?" She shook her head, tears falling freely now. "I can't imagine. I shouldn't have made you feel that way. I was blind. Please, David. I just want a chance to make it right." I looked at her carefully, seeing not just her regret, but also the fear, the realization that she couldn't undo what had already happened. "You had your chance, Clara," I said softly, almost to myself. "You left when I was building everything, when I was giving everything, and you chose to walk away." She reached out, almost pleading. "David, just one chance. I know I hurt you. I know I ruined years of your life, but I can love you differently now. Please, let me try." I stepped back, feeling the weight of every memory, every insult, every night I had cried alone. I whispered, voice low and final, "Clara, some doors once closed never reopen. I can't undo the past. I can't give you what I had when you didn't believe in me. I survived. I built something you couldn't see. And I have to live my life without the shadow of those who doubted me." She sank into a chair, her hands trembling, her face buried in her hands. I see it now. I see everything. I was wrong. I lost you." I watched her, my heart heavy but clear. I felt the strange peace of knowing that I had endured, survived, and succeeded. Not for her, not for anyone, but for myself. And in that moment I whispered to the quiet room, almost to her, almost to me, "I hope you find peace, Clara, but I am no longer yours to fix." The silence stretched between us, thick with grief, love, and regret. She had come seeking what she had lost, but some things, even love, cannot be reclaimed once they are destroyed. And I realized finally that the man she had walked away from was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, wiser, and unshakable. A man who had finally become the person he was always meant to be. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her. I didn't remind her of every insult she ever threw at me. I didn't need to. The truth didn't require anger anymore. It only required honesty. I looked at her for a long moment before I spoke. Not the woman who stood in front of me now crying, apologizing, afraid, but the woman I once loved so deeply that I stayed silent while she broke me. "Clara," I said gently, "you didn't leave because I failed." She looked up, confused, her eyes red and swollen. "What do you mean?" she whispered. "You left because I was still becoming," I continued. "You left because my success was taking too long, because you wanted results before the process was finished." She shook her head quickly. "That's not true. I loved you. I was just tired. I was scared. I didn't know if you'd ever make it." I nodded slowly. "Exactly." My voice didn't shake. It surprised even me. "You wanted certainty," I said. "You wanted proof before belief. But love doesn't work like that." She tried to speak, but I raised my hand gently, not to silence her, but to finish what I had carried for years. "Love isn't showing up when everything is shining," I said. "Love is staying when things are dark. Love is defending someone when they have nothing to show yet. Love is choosing patience over pressure." She whispered my name. "David." "I begged you for time," I continued. "Not forever, just enough. And instead of standing beside me, you stood above me. You mocked me. You compared me. You made my struggle feel like a crime." Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't know I was hurting you that badly." I smiled sadly. "That's the thing, Clara. You didn't ask." The room felt heavy, like the air itself was listening. "You see," I said softly, "support isn't clapping when the race is over. It's bringing water when someone is still running." She covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. "I needed a partner," I went on. "Someone who believed before the headlines. Someone who respected the man even when the world didn't. And you measured me too early." She looked at me, broken. "So, there's no chance?" I took a deep breath. This was the hardest part, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I once wished the answer could have been different. "The man you left needed you," I said quietly. "The man standing here now learned how to stand alone." Her cry was silent, just tears, no words. "I forgave you," I added. "Not today. A long time ago. I forgave you so I could move forward without bitterness. But forgiveness doesn't always mean reunion." I stood up slowly. "You didn't just leave a house," I said. "You left a season. And some seasons don't come back." She reached for my hand, but stopped halfway, as if she already knew. "I hope you find peace," I said sincerely. "I really do. But my life can't begin again where it was broken." There was no anger in the room, no victory, just truth, just closure. As I walked away, I didn't feel powerful. I felt free, and for the first time in my life, that was enough. She didn't scream. She didn't chase after me. She didn't argue anymore. She collapsed inward. I saw it in the way her shoulders folded, as if the weight of everything she had done finally found a place to land. She sat down slowly, like her legs could no longer carry the truth she had just heard. Her hands trembled in her lap. Her breath came in short, broken pieces. "I didn't mean to lose you," she whispered, almost to herself. I stopped walking. Not because I wanted to turn back, but because I wanted to end things cleanly. You didn't mean to, I said gently. But you did. She looked up at me, her face empty of pride now, stripped of every sharp word she once used to protect herself. I thought success would fix everything, she said. I thought if you ever made it, we'd be okay again. I shook my head slowly. Success doesn't fix what disrespect destroys. Her lips quivered. So this is it? This is acceptance, I replied. She broke then, not loudly, not dramatically, just quiet sobs, the kind that come when hope finally understands it's too late. She pressed her palms to her face, rocking slightly, as if trying to hold herself together. I was there when you had nothing, she said through tears. Doesn't that count for something? I knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. It counts, I said honestly, but leaving when nothing turns into something. That counts too. She nodded slowly, defeated. And in that moment I felt something strange inside me. Not triumph, not revenge, not even pride. I felt growth. Years ago, I would have wanted her to suffer. I would have wanted her to feel every insult she gave me. I would have wanted the world to punish her the way she punished me. But I didn't, because pain had already taught me everything revenge never could. I don't hate you, I said quietly. I don't want you to hurt. I just can't carry you anymore. She wiped her face with trembling hands. How did you become this calm? I smiled faintly. Because I survived the worst version of my life without becoming bitter. I stood up. You see, I continued, real growth isn't proving someone wrong. It's refusing to become cruel just because you were wounded. She looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Not the man she left, not the man she doubted, but the man who had healed without her. I hope one day, I said softly, you meet someone whose dreams you'll protect, not rush. She nodded, unable to speak. As I walked away, I didn't feel like I had won. I felt like I had let go. And sometimes letting go is the bravest victory of all. I left her with her regret, but I carried no hatred with me. Only peace. I've had time to think now. Quiet time. The kind of silence that only comes after storms have passed and wounds have closed. And if there's one thing this life has taught me, it is this. People don't fail because they are slow. People fail because they are abandoned too early. I learned that timing is everything. Not everyone blooms at the same hour. Some seeds grow underground longer than others, unseen, unnoticed, doubted. But that doesn't mean they are dead. It only means they are becoming. Patience, I've learned, is not passive. It is active belief. It is choosing to stay when walking away feels easier. It is trusting the process even when there are no results to show yet. And belief, real belief, isn't loud. It doesn't mock. It doesn't pressure. It stands quietly and says, I see you, even before the world does. To anyone listening to my story, I don't tell it to shame anyone. I tell it as a warning and as a mirror. Be careful who you abandon when they are still building. Be careful who you measure before their journey is complete. The same hands you drop today may be the ones shaping tomorrow. And sometimes, the biggest regret in life I send to losing someone successful. It's losing someone who would have become extraordinary if you had just stayed. I also learned something about myself. I learned that growth doesn't need revenge. Healing doesn't need applause. And closure doesn't need permission from the people who hurt you. Some endings are quiet. Some victories are invisible. And some strength is proven not by what you gain, but by what you refuse to become. I loved, I lost. I became, and I carry no bitterness, only understanding. Because life has a strange way of teaching us lessons when it is too late to undo them. Some people leave too early, and some doors, once closed, never open again.